On today's episode of Secrets to Scaling Your E-commerce Brand, I got a chance to chat with Bernadette Orscher from Geeks Who Drink. We had such a good conversation, not a D2C brand, but all of these principles that we talked about apply. We talked about partnerships. We talked about some of the partnerships that they're doing with really big media properties. We walked through sort of how these work and how you can create a win-win partnership with a huge media property like this to really help boost your brand. Guys, you are not going to want to miss this one. Hey guys, Jordan West back with another episode of Secrets to Scaling Your E-commerce Brand. Really excited about this conversation today. This isn't necessarily an e-commerce brand, but very interesting conversation nonetheless. And I think something that a lot of you are going to get a lot from kind of as we dig in here. So Bernadette Orscher from Geeks Who Drink, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Jordan.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Before we get going, for people who know nothing about you or Geeks Who Drink, tell us just a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, you got it. My background is primarily in brand building. So that could be from the ground up or with new, kind of an emerging brands. But more commonly, I've been a part of rebrands for legacy companies that needed an injection of something fresh and the company was ready to make moves. So that started with Playboy and the licensing world and kind of later carried through with brand marketing at OkCupid and now at Geeks Who Drink. And Geeks Who Drink is such a fun product. It's bar trivia, and we have these kind of two different personas where we are working with 700 different venues across the United States to actually host our trivia events. But we are the ones kind of crafting and creating the content for our 35,000 weekly trivia goers. So, we're knowledge-based entertainment, which is a kind of really fun and kind of wide open space in a lot of ways. And we've been in business for 17 years. We are absolutely the leader in bar trivia in the United States. And yeah, it's an incredible group of folks in highly, highly creative environment.
Awesome. That's great. Well, I mean, this is Secrets to Scaling, the podcast. I would love to hear how do you've only come into this company, fairly recently. How do you start to now scale up what you guys are doing and get into more places? And it's interesting, right? Because you're both on the B2B side, right? Because your actual customer is the bars, right? That you're trying to, make a great product for. But then also at the same side, you need to take care of the customers who are kind of those end product users. How do you balance all of that while trying to scale up?
Oh my gosh, it's such a great question, and sometimes it's a flywheel, right? So it's like our customers will come to us because they are trying to reinvigorate their business and create a program in a community where they are. And what better way to kind of resonate with folks is giving them a reason to get out of the house. So that's for and parcel our mission, right? Is to actually connect with those, what's in seats that our customers
Yeah.
really are looking for. So we want to create content and I use content really broadly. We're, kind of creating an entirely interesting experience, a really clever, edifying moment for people to connect and give them a reason to socialize. And we are working with our SMBs to create that environment for folks to go. So, thinking about scaling and if we're getting right into the secret sauce of scale, right?
Oh yeah.
It's okay. Don't hold back. I love it. You can't scale if you're inefficient. And if you don't have the
Totally.
infrastructure and the foundation laid, it's just not possible. So part of what I've been doing here in my short tenure, which I've absolutely loved. And interestingly enough, I actually came to know Geeks Who Drink because I was a former client on the sponsor side with OkCupid years and years ago. So it's kind of
And I'm looking forward to just, I want to dive into that. I want to dive into sort of how these sponsorships work and all that kind of stuff.
you bet.
Keep going, but I want to make sure that this is something that we actually touch on because I think it's really interesting.
That's great. Before anything, I like to kind of assess the landscape and figure out, anticipate the needs and bring teams together. I think if you are going alone in your strategy, you're destined to fail. So, in my experience, I've witnessed success in companies that I've never witnessed success in companies, I should say, that operated in silos. So kind of first things first, create systems that work cross-departmentally
Mm,
and bring your internal stakeholders to the table and focus on the customer, right?
yeah.
So breaking down the customer's problems as a team is going to make a stronger persona snapshot ultimately.
Are you
So
guys using
Mhm.
like so when you talk about that and like bringing
Yeah.
visibility like across all the departments and unsiloing things, right? Because it's hilarious. Even like 10-person teams can, sorry, 10-person companies can get siloed, right? And
Yeah.
everyone's like in their own little spot, and you're like, how did this happen so fast where we're not sharing information between each other? Like, how did
Right.
this happen?
When we asked, one of the first things I did, the first exercises was I asked every department head what they thought the brand was and what they thought we were selling. And
Mm,
almost everybody had a different answer. So that is really telling, right? Because, you're going to come across folks that have been with the group for a long time and maybe have kind of a one world perspective of what the customer needs are, but that landscape has evolved and changed,
yeah,
and maybe there's no visibility and there's no kind of outlet in the company that's like letting folks know, like, actually this is outdated data, and this is not who we're connecting with any longer. And
yeah,
it's really just that kind of aha moment that can just, the sharing of information is an easy solve for that, right? So
yeah.
I mean, I
And
think that
is
Mhm.
there like a practical sort of way that started to implement this when you came into the company? Like, is there like I love EOS framework.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan. Anything like that you used, or was this more like kind of a bespoke sort of idea of like, hey, we just need everyone to get visibility on things?
Well, we like, you do the internal brand workshops and, get everybody on a Figma session, and everybody, like, we're blocking out 6 hours of our day, and we're going to answer some big questions, and we're going to actually have, for the first time, kind of like a company retreat and get
Mm,
everybody on the same page. Right. So the EOS framework is absolutely part of it. Also just kind of like let's look at the history. Like, let's kind of get back to some common sense problems and common sense solutions. So that was step one. And like the next steps are, fun part, right? Like answering the big questions. What strategies are we implementing? What does the success rubric look like?
yeah,
And I think the most important component of scaling ultimately is being able to embrace change. Well, being fluid and flexible while staying focused on your North Star. I mean, there's obviously a few different paths to
yeah,
success. But if we were to break it down into like a bulleted list that we could use for SEO later, I would say developing internal systems, know your customers, answer the big questions, create a success framework, and then ultimately embrace change.
awesome, awesome. I absolutely love that. I want to break down a couple of things in there that you were talking about, because I think that it's really interesting as we start to look at, you know, scaling over years, right? Think about like for you guys who have been around for 17 years, there's been massive technological change in that 17 years, right? Like we have gone from, 17 years ago was before the iPhone, right? Like I don't think the iPhone was around then. So like how do you stay relevant in a society now that has trivia at their fingertips, right? Like that, like anyone can go and like you could have your friends over and have a free app and do this. Like, how do
Yeah.
you create that value and that excitement around the brand so that people don't want to do that?
Oh my God, it's such a good question. And the fact is, like, people want to connect, right? The pandemic taught us exactly that. People want to stay
Totally.
connected with each other. They want to have a ritual. They want to have a reason to, like, quite simply, when in a lot of my insights work, people just want a reason to get out of the house. But they
Yeah,
want,
yeah.
you know, they know is going to
Just
be
a
fun.
reason, right?
Just a
Just like
reason.
anything. Like, what are you going out for?
Totally.
Trivia.
Yeah.
Trivia.
Why
Yes,
not?
that's it.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason that we are better than our competition, and this is a fact because I have been to some bad trivia nights. It's a thing. Like, bad trivia is a thing. And when you learn something new and you actually are entertained and interested, you're getting a dopamine hit. You're getting that rush. Like, those things are fact. So that
Yeah.
hasn't changed, right? The technology of how we promote, the technology of how we connect has absolutely changed. But the fact that remains, we like learning things. Humans are
Yeah.
naturally curious. So that's the same. And if we continue to double down on that, and we continue to make sure that we are always upping our level of content on the trivia front, which we absolutely are, our editorial team is unbelievable. People are going to keep going. We have, 46% of our quizzers go to trivia 3 times a month. Like, and half of that
Wow.
audience goes to more than one venue. Like, our audience is incredibly loyal, and there's a reason. It's because it's an edifying experience. You get
Yeah,
to you get to tell someone the next day what you learned the night before, that some obscure trivia fact, and you're going to have a fun time doing it. So I think it's like, necessarily when it comes to innovations, obviously it's changed how the teams worked and how they work together. The tech has changed, how we communicate with clients. It communicates how we communicate with our clients, customers, and going forward,
totally.
and also how we extract data and how we can kind of make sure that we are continuing to fill those customers' needs. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's what we're trying to do.
Totally.
Um, so,
I want to step in with
yeah,
a quick story here on trivia.
love it.
So I remember being like, I think it was like grade 3 or 4. There was this girl that I liked who just knew all of these trivia things. And so I thought, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to read every card of Trivial Pursuit so that I also know all of these cool facts. And so, like, anytime that I saw like Trivial Pursuit at like a thrift store or anything like that, I would just buy it so I could get more facts that I knew. And so I don't know why. I just wanted to throw that in to
Are
this
you now
podcast. Just
married to this girl? I'm
no, I
assuming it did not work out.
in
Trivia.
grade 3 or 4 now.
Can I tell you that well, listen, trivia is that it's the basis of a strong relationship. We have so many quiz masters and quiz who are like our hosts across the country and who have married their quiz goers. Like, over time, we're not.
Oh, that's
I
wonderful.
know. It's so amazing how trivia truly does bring people together. It's a reason to connect. When before I had kids, it was a reason for me to go out with my friends every week and
Yeah,
quite literally know that on Mondays I'm going to see this group of friends. We're going to eat wings and we're going to play trivia. And that
yeah.
is so reassuring, and having that connection with folks really, really matters. So I like that it was your tactic for, I mean, smart is sexy, Jordan. I think that's great.
It,
I,
over time, it was a long game, guys. It was the long game. I've got a lot of trivia now. Happily married for almost 15 years here, and I can say that trivia has everything to do with it. These random facts that I throw out all the time. And now my oldest daughter also is like a trivia queen. She just loves it. So
that's
I
awesome.
she's not drinking yet. She's not a geek who drinks yet. Because she's only 10, but we're gonna get her in there eventually.
We have plenty of geeks on the team who do not drink. I do want to be clear about that.
Okay,
So it could be drinking tomato juice. It could drink whatever. I mean, which would
perfect.
be weird, but would be more weird than seeing a 12. But yeah,
Let's
it's not a part of the deal. You don't have to.
yeah. Okay, perfect. Bernadette, let's get into partnerships because
Yeah.
I want to understand how you guys look at partnerships because I think you look at them in a few different sorts of ways. I'm a huge partnerships guy. I just think that together, I mean, like everyone who's listened to this podcast for any amount of time knows I'm obsessed with 7 Habits. It's the framework that I use, like principal framework that I use for my life. And sort of the end of 7 Habits is really creating synergy, right? And actually understanding it, right? It's not like synergy just happens because you do all these things. It's actually understanding like, oh, this is how we put one and one together and it creates 10, right? And I really believe that good partnerships do that. Bad partnerships, one and one equals like zero point 0.5, right?
Mhm.
And that can happen. So you really have to know who you're, getting into bed with. But on this side of partnerships, I'd love to hear how you're thinking about this and how you're putting these things together to really create true win-win.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, partnerships really can absolutely open up the aperture when it comes to awareness, and finding what most marketers think about all day long is, how can I find a new audience? How can I connect with a
Yeah.
new audience? And how can I reach them? Geeks Who Drink is an amazing conduit for that. We have, like I said, 35,000 weekly quizzers, people that go to our event across the country. There's one unifying thing that they have, is that they all participate in these weekly events. And that's not just the folks who we can connect with digitally. We have an incredibly involved trivia community online, which is incredible, and they're wildly engaged and captivated. But I think it comes down to values and value alignment, right? Where
Mhm.
Geeks Who Drink, we're really clear about our core values of kind of inclusivity, entertainment. Like, we absolutely believe in pillars, and want to expose our audience to kind of brands that we feel are like minded when it comes to, being reliable, thoughtful, clever, all these things. And entertainment is one of the insights we pulled that our quizzers love to spend money on. So it's food, drink, entertainment, right? And when you come down to value, it's like our most valuable commodity is time. So how do you like to spend
Yeah.
your time? These folks want to spend their time with us. They also want to spend their time on food, drink, and entertainment. So it seemed like a really logical extension to start, connecting with entertainment properties like streaming on, Hulu and kind of the Netflix and Foxes of the world to kind of
And
connect
what
with
does a
them.
partnership look
Mhm.
like there, Bernadette? Like,
Yeah.
what does that practically kind of look like when you're doing a partnership with Netflix or Fox or whoever that is?
We're still in an infant space when it comes to our life cycle of partnerships and sponsorships, which allows us a little bit of flexibility to be bespoke, to be
Cool.
a little bit more customized. So there isn't a kind of like, this is what our standard playbook looks like, which also just allows us to kind of like script, scratch that creative itch that we have.
Yeah.
And so some of the examples I can kind of surface are we have these, events across the country that are like full deep dives into a certain property. So if we're working with Hulu, for example, they have a ton of new content coming out. Murders in the Building, The Kingsman is going to be a new movie that they're airing. We can do actual full rounds and questions on that
Wow.
content. We can riff off of it and kind of work with our partners to really go deep on it. We can include influencers and street teams and promotional giveaways and tickets and all those other things. One of the most common paths forward is we like to integrate our partners into our content when it comes to sponsored rounds. So, this round of trivia is brought to you by a new animated show on Fox. And we're going to riff off that content. And here's a round on, ancient Greece. So it's general knowledge.
Cool.
It doesn't feel like anybody's left out where it's like, I've been to trivia before where they've done trivia rounds on shows on Netflix. And if I haven't seen that show, quite literally don't know the answer. And then
Yeah,
an
totally.
entire
And you
section
can't
of
guess either.
you can't get like the entire audience is alienated. So
Yeah.
our approach is a little different where if you haven't seen only Murders in the Building, we're instead going to do a round on buildings, famous buildings, or,
Oh, cool. Cool. I
we
love. Yeah.
we
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
elective center to make sure that everybody still feels included and they're a part of the process and can learn something, but they don't necessarily have to know about Selena Gomez's character. Like it's
Yes.
all kind of, relevant still. So that's a part of our inclusivity. And that's why working with entertainment partners is a really, like I said, logical extension. And that way we're kind of like letting folks know, hey, this new show is dropping that we think you would also love. Like these are
Yeah.
partners. We are very selective. We have turned down partners before. If we don't think that people embody kind of our values and things that we believe, we have a very open audience, then we're not necessarily going to put our name on it. We
Yeah.
have we have the we have the luxury of saying no. So
Yeah.
we like so the partners that we choose and who we work with, we're kind of giving our stamp of approval to our quizzers and
Totally.
saying, we think you guys are going to love this because we love them too.
Yeah.
And, and that it's been an incredibly fun and enlightening kind of new pipeline of the business.
Amazing. I mean, I can speak to partnerships in the businesses that we own, and like, it's just incredible. One of the companies we own down in the States, we did a partnership with All Trails last year.
Oh, I love
And,
old trails.
yeah,
Yeah.
All Trails is amazing. And so, like, it was just the perfect win-win. Our community picks up trash on trails. And so we did this amazing partnership with them. Ended up every time that they posted about us, we had about 10,000 website visitors every time. And it was
That's
just like
awesome.
phenomenal win on our side, tons of downloads for them on their side. Great win-win, perfect values alignment. But there's like you said, values alignment, I think, is the most important thing. Even if you have the same customer demographic, but you don't have values alignment, it's not going to work, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to potentially really hurt your brand.
Yeah, and it is. It's psychographic. It's like, sure, we could say that I have a demo of, 75% of our folks are don't have kids and they are between ages 25. Like there's all these sweet spot things. But at the end of the day, like you pick up that exact same, demo and drop it in a part of the country that maybe doesn't kind of jive with what it is that we're working on.
Yes,
It's not gonna
totally.
fit. So we definitely think about things psychographically. Age is just a number. But I think, I definitely I think it goes beyond that, right? It's like that's the same mindset that we like to put into all of our marketing efforts. The same mindset in terms of kind of leading with our values. So, kind of connecting, like if you want to talk a little bit about some bootstrap marketing content, I'm more than happy to go through some of that and how it's relates, right? Like,
Well, what I would love to actually get into for our audience is, most of the people that are listening to this also have a wholesale component, right? They've got a B2B
Mhm.
component of their business. I would love to know on your side, because you're in a very specific niche of, who is going to purchase whatever it is, the licenses or host these nights.
Mhm.
How does that work, like from a marketing perspective? Because really at the end of the day, you're marketing to the bar owners. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, that's
Yeah.
one audience. That's one audience, right?
Okay.
Like, if we're signing up folks to go to a trivia event or to I'm sorry, if we're signing up different clients to become trivia hosts or trivia venues, but there's no audience that is aware of it, it's not going to work. It's not going to fail. We've already done a disservice to our new potential client by not also
Gotcha.
trying to connect with their customers. So
Yeah.
yeah, we have these two kind of different personas where it's like we're connecting with SMBs, but we are also connecting with the audience that would be, the butts in the seat at the end of the day. So,
Yeah.
and we often find that when we're do D2C marketing, when I am focused on content for those kind of butts in seats, we have a halo effect that the SMB business will start to, and acquisition inbounds also increases. So the more people in the community, and really it sometimes just takes somebody being like, hey, it could be a bartender, it could be a patron, it could be whomever to go to their favorite bar and say, hey, like, I would love if you guys started doing a trivia program. And next thing you know, Google research fires up and you'll find geeks pretty quickly. But
So
mm,
how do you seed that with them? How do you guys do that marketing and really get in there? Because I understand that like reverse sort of way of like we get our customers, in the apparel world all the time, like, hey, ask your local baby boutique or whoever it is, ask them. But how do you like directly do sales outreach to these people?
yeah, I mean, that's a great listen. There's some tried and true tactics that still prove out for us, like direct mail still absolutely is a thing.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I am I, kind of transparently, my husband's a general manager of a brewery and a bar. And I've talked to him about this before. I'm like, how are you kind of connecting with some of your vendors and servers? And like, how are you kind of surfacing or how are these people kind of connecting with you at your level? And a lot of it is quite literally done through SEO and through like Google and search engine work.
Yeah.
It's such an incredibly important moment to catch someone when they're in the middle of trying to weigh their options, right? So search engine is incredibly valuable. And honestly, just taking a look at certain areas where we know that we are kind of in a market where we've either dropped off and we've had some kind of saturation in other parts of the country, we want to sort of spread the wealth. We want to make sure that our clients are set up for success. And we know that when we actually blitz a market and we cover a DMA, that we're going to see stronger results across the board. So it's like a rising tide kind of floats all boats. So
Gotcha.
yeah, we're not, so focused on just like signing a random one-off bar in one DMA of the country instead of focused on 10 to 15 new venues in this specific DMA. So we'll
Mm,
kind of figure out where's there a blitz, where's there a location that we know that we can staff it appropriately. There's a lot of operating costs that go into it. And then we just trying to figure out like, all right, we know that these are our 10 addressable markets.
yeah.
What are the tactics that are going to connect with these folks in this market? Have we employed direct mail? Have we employed search engine? Have we employed kind of local boots on the ground efforts to connect with the Brewers Guild or,
Totally.
whatever it might be that's local and relevant to those decision makers.
This is really interesting too, thinking from the direct consumer side of things, because I think that, we've gotten so used to, running Facebook ads where it's just like, yeah, wide open targeting and like kind of just, selling to anybody. But really thinking about this, getting into a target market, right? And getting incredibly well known in that market and creating super fans in that market. There's something to be said for that, right? And creating the super fans like in that rather than having like all of these like one-off people. And of course, in the day and age of Facebook ads, we can do that. But really creating that like home base feel, there's something I think really special about that and can really propel a brand.
Yeah, and we're here to have our customers survive and thrive, right? So we're not here to kind of just sign a contract and have you leave. We want to create that relationship. We have certain venues we've been working with the entirety of our existence.
Wow.
And yeah, and that's our goal with each one. So we're not going to set people up to fail. We're not going to
Yeah.
just try and sign you if you're, just we turn down folks. We make sure that there's certain criteria that they have to meet that we know from our research and our data that you may churn
Yeah.
if you fall into this certain critical criteria. Therefore, we're not so certain that we are the right option for you right now. But if that changes in the very near future, we can, or here's some other avenues in which we can still work together in another way. We're constantly innovating new products and developing new ways to connect with our bar and venue patrons. So, stay tuned for that. There is some very exciting
Cool.
new stuff that we are, because this was a problem. Obviously, it is a problem when we are not kind of saturated in those certain DMAs. Like, how do we still service those folks? So,
Yeah.
we have some really cool products coming out in the new year that is designed for exactly that.
So cool. This has been an awesome conversation. Thank you so much. We're kind of nearing the end here. I'm going to sort of wrap things up with this question that I asked everyone who comes on the podcast. What is your secret to scaling?
My secret to scaling? Oh my God. I guess just like I said, embracing change. Like it really is about understanding that business model is not going to stay the same. The way
Yeah.
people in connect with you is not going to stay the same. The way that you communicate with them is not going to stay the same. So let's keep figuring out like how to kind of stay fluid, stay flexible and adaptable while, maintaining a strong integrity and bottom line to our customers. Yeah. So I think that that's probably no secret, but I guess it's my
It
philosophy.
is it is a secret if you don't do it. You know, that's the thing. Bernadette, thank you so much. I got 3 more questions for you. I hope that you're ready.
Or like,
Okay. First question, favorite tool or app that you're using right now?
I would say my favorite and also most often used right now is Canva. I really love it for content creation on the fly. It's been pretty solid for my team.
Their new AI stuff that they have in there is absolutely unreal as well. Like their
Yeah,
template finder in their AI stuff is like yeah, Canva is an incredibly special company. I'm so glad that they came
I
into the
know.
market when they did.
I
It's
know. I
like
am too.
democratized design,
I
like
know.
it's
And this is
incredible.
not a free plug for Canva, but Canva, we'd love to work with you. But I genuinely I am not always the most adept, and I find it so user friendly. I find
Yeah.
it to be incredibly. They figured out a way to really to synthesize something that's incredibly complex and make it feel intuitive. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Second question for you. Favorite podcast or audiobook that you're listening to right now?
Oh God, my podcast. I actually just went to a podcast taping last night of a
Oh,
show. Is an SV. Yeah, I'm one of those people. I go to podcast tapings.
wow. Wow. Okay. Okay. Like full geek.
full full And I went to a podcast taping last night for an SVU podcast recap, true crime kind of vibes.
Oh,
We're
okay. Okay.
called That's Messed Up. Love That's Messed Up. I also love I'm very kind of basic when it comes to the true crime of it all. I listen to all of them. I think that,
Awesome.
Dateline's the best. It's crazy that it's
I'm a
happening.
huge true crime guy too. Like
Oh, okay.
yeah, I
Yeah, I
remember.
mean, Dateline is the strongest argument for anti-marriage that has ever been made. I
Oh,
think
yeah, yeah. Somebody gets murdered. It's like,
every time.
it's the husband or ex-boyfriend,
Yeah,
or the boyfriend. Well, like whatever, just, or
it's
maybe it's exciting and maybe it's a girlfriend.
so good. I listen to all of it. I read true crime books. Yeah, I'm very, very into it.
So years ago, I was a paramedic, and one of the things that we had to do was cross cover certain areas. So like we just had so few ambulances that lots of times they would put you like one ambulance for about 500,000 people. And so you'd have to sit right in the middle of all these communities. And one of the places that we sat was in this place called the Pitt River Bridge. Well, right where the Pitt River Bridge was one of Canada's most notorious serial killers. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember what
Oh,
his name is right now.
oh my God.
Robert Picton.
What's his name? Like his
Ro- Ro- Robert Picton was what he went by. And so anyway, we would sit on like Robert Picton's old property where he had like there was like
so
they don't
spooky.
even know in the hundreds, and he had a pig farm. And anyway, so I would sit there and then I'd listen
Okay,
to true
yeah.
crime
He was known
podcasts
as
about Robert Picton.
I was like, he's known as
And
the pig farmer killer because there's never
yes,
like no one's ever just Robert Picton. It's like what's
yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. The crazy thing is multiple times he was like caught
oh my God.
doing stuff, and
Mm-mm.
the RCMP in BC is just fairly incompetent and just
Oh
didn't.
my God. No,
Yeah,
that's why these stories are compelling, right? It's like, you're like, how did it go on? How did they not get caught? What can we as a society do better? Like it's really just
yeah,
like for me, I think, people talk about it all the time, like, why is true crime so hot right now? I'm like, I don't think it's hot right now. I think it's always been. Like, people have always been fascinated by these horrors. But yeah,
yeah,
I mean, that's crazy. And also like amazing that you were a paramedic. That's rad.
yeah. It was fun. It was fun. It's something I should talk about more often because
You
there's so
should.
so many great principles that sort of lead back into business and stuff too.
That's
So
great.
yeah, I did it for 12 years. It was a long time.
Good for you.
uh,
Well, good for you. It's amazing.
Last question for you, Bernadette. You just
Yeah.
found out you have a year to live. What changes?
Oh, God. To be honest, not too much. Is that so lame? I would obviously be,
No, it's great.
working remotely on a beach. So like, that would kind of probably change just but I'd still be working here and there. And I would still, my greatest value other than being, an a parent and it's really having impact in people's lives. And that means
Mm,
in my immediate network. And then through my work, I've always found that to be so
mm,
satisfying. I've never wanted to be a part of something that was really too big. I've always found myself in really small teams and small groups where I know that our work can make a
mm,
difference. And it could
totally.
be, yeah. And it could be something as small as like, helping people find love or I mean, not small, something as big as helping people
Yeah.
find love or helping people have a reason to connect with their friends every week. Like
Mm,
that is wildly impactful. I had my own business for a few years in Brooklyn and, I loved seeing couples that would come in and get their wedding jewelry from my shop and, kind of like I was a part of their
yeah.
day, and that always
Yeah.
felt so special, and people even just being able to jump into my shop and grab something that they need while they're heading out, it just felt like yeah, it felt so satisfying, so I think a year to live for me, it's like I'm gonna keep, working a bit, probably a little less than I am now, but
Yeah.
still, like, making sure that, the impact and the time that I have high impact on the time that I have left. I mean,
Yeah.
I try to do that any day, but what a
Great
morbid
answer.
question to end on, Jordan.
Well, luckily I had a funny, and I'll tell you my I was gonna say a
Oh,
funny political question at the end here, but I'm gonna
well,
save that one for after. I was gonna tell you most inappropriate question you can ask right now.
oh,
Anyway, Bernadette, so good to have you on the podcast. Thank
that's
you
great.
so much. Oh, sorry. On this year to live, a really, really good friend of mine about a year ago got the diagnosis of terminal cancer, ended up living this incredible year to live. He's got young kids, but they just really did everything and just like assumed and he's just got a clean bill of health. So he
Mm,
got to live the entire year. He's now 41
mm,
and now gets
amazing.
to live the rest of his life. And like what an incredible gift to
Mm,
get to have that. Like I'm so happy for him, even though that must have been incredibly difficult to face some of those feelings and whatever that looks like for you. But now he gets to live the rest of his life, and he knows what that's like. He
yeah,
knows that that's like only having a year left, which is
wow.
crazy. So
No, that's so unique as an experience, and I'm so happy for you
yeah,
and your friend, obviously, and his family. It's incredible.
Bernadette, where can people connect with you?
I'm on LinkedIn. And geekswhodrink.com, of course. We have, ton of really fun and interesting content, even if you're not coming to one of our events. We have a lot of trivia related pieces, but we also, our editor in chief and CEO, also former Jeopardy champ, um, writes amazing articles and so
Cool.
formative and fun and, kind of really makes me feel anyway. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so smart, just after reading a nice little piece of snackable
Sweet.
content, so he is writing pieces about what just happened in the US with Speaker of the House and all these other kind of really fun, like this week is, I don't know when this is coming out, but we're getting closer to Halloween. So Freaky Science Week is
Oh,
kind of
cool.
stuff we're
Yeah.
writing about. So geekswhodrink.com has all these great featured articles. And yeah,
Cool.
I'm on LinkedIn and Geeks Who Drink is on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. All the
Awesome,
good stuff.
guys. And remember, everything that we talked about here will be down in the show notes. So please go and follow along. Definitely glad to be connected with you, Bernadette. Thank you so much for your time today. This is
Well,
a
thank
super
you
fun
for
conversation.
oh,
If I had more time, we would have just kept going and going. But this
I
is our
know
time now.
yeah, you're slammed. We're slammed. I had a great time. You're a delight. Thank you so much for making space. I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.